You know, our environment is made out of living beings such as animals and plants. Animals move from one place to another in search of food, sometimes in search of shelter, then to protect themselves from their enemies and also to find their mates. Moving from one place to another is called locomotion. But you know, plants can't move on their own unless someone has to move it. But they have the ability to move their leaves, shoots, branches, and sometimes their stem. From this, we can conclude movement is a common characteristic for animals as well as plants. Now we'll try to define the term movement. Living organisms change their location of their whole body or a part of its body as a response to a stimulus is known as movement. When we look at these unicellular organisms, you know, they have different appendages to make their movements. For example, Chlamydomonas and Euglena use two whip-like structures called as flagellas. Likewise, Paramecium, which has small hair-like structures called cilia. If we look at amoeba, they used to move with the help of their pseudopodias. So we'll watch this video given below to gain better knowledge.
Microorganisms like amoeba, euglena, paramecium, and hydra show various simple modes of locomotion. Locomotion in the unicellular organism. Amoeba is affected by the formation of temporary finger-like processes called pseudopodia. The movement due to pseudopodia in amoeba is termed as amoeboid movement. Formation of pseudopodia in any direction causes an amoeba to move in that direction. Pseudopodium is formed by the streaming movement of cytoplasm. Microorganisms like euglena and paramecium possess external organelles for locomotion.
When we look at these multicellular organisms, we can divide them into invertebrates and vertebrates. You know, invertebrates use their muscles to move. For example, we can consider the earthworm, octopus, and snail here.
Look at this incredible animal. In the folk's name, we usually call it rainworm, but actually it's also called the earthworm. The amazing part of this earthworm is that it maintains our soil structure and improves the soil fertility. Okay, so now you can see the earthworm on a more or less pretty dry surface. He's struggling to get around. Especially here you see it. So I try to give him a little drop of water, and now you can see how the earthworm starts to enjoy this nice and wet environment. Have you ever thought about how an earthworm works itself forward through the earth? Have a look here on this side, or maybe here on a little close-up. Do you see these little seta? These are small little hair sticking out of the side of the earthworm, which allows it to grab the soil around it and push itself through it. And here you see the back end, where the waste comes out, of course. So, and here you see the movement of the worm, how it pulls itself together and then pushes itself forward again.
Vertebrates, bones and muscles help them in their movement. For example, in human, we will consider the elbow joint. You know, the upper arm is made out of a single bone called humerus, and the forearm is made out of two thin bones named as ulna and radius. Here we can see these bones are attached with muscles and tendons. When the bicep muscle contracts, the tricep muscle will expand. So it will help us to bend our elbow. Likewise, when the bicep muscle relax and tricep muscle contract, will help us to stretch our arms. The next slide will help you to understand how the animals move.
Snake locomotion has always been somewhat puzzling to scientists. Some have speculated that snakes use leverage by exerting force on resistance points. That is, they push against rocks, branches, and other surface irregularities. But that doesn't explain how snakes navigate so swiftly in sand and over slick roads. Recently, it was discovered that snakes also make use of directional friction and weight distribution. Like most people, you probably think snakes are slimy. So how do these smooth, scaled reptiles generate friction? Well, contrary to popular belief, snakes aren't slimy. In fact, they may even feel a bit rough. Snake scales are smooth to minimize the forces of friction when they slide forward. Conversely, when snakes slide backwards or sideways, the overlapping scales, which resemble roof shingles, dig into the ground, causing frictional resistance to occur. If the friction exerted by the snake is equal in all directions, snakes just oscillate in place, meaning they'll go through the motions, but won't be able to go anywhere. The scale's frictional anisotropy, or resistance to sliding in certain directions, helps the snake push itself forward. Also, scientists have discovered that snakes, through muscle movement, can change the angle their scales meet the ground. A larger angle generates more friction, while a smaller angle generates less. Weight distribution is also important in snake locomotion. If you closely examine a moving snake, you'll see that their body doesn't always remain in contact with the ground. Instead, snakes lift parts of their body off the surface to direct their weight on specific points. This is comparable to how humans shift their weight from heel to toe in order to run faster. it still isn't completely understood how snakes move.